This appeared in the newspaper 64 years ago. I first learned how to grow cannabis as a child in Canada. In 2001, I moved to California. I pursued a career as a medical cannabis activist and researcher. A year ago, I was invited to participate in a reality TV series. It was called Weed Country, and it appeared on the Discovery Channel. Here's a clip from the final episode. So I've made Catherine another batch of Ben's meds. It's a concentrated vial of almost pure CBDs.
Nate Morris is en route to Catherine Jacobson's house to see if the CBD tincture he created for her son Ben was successful at limiting his seizures.
I saw a video the other day of a child having a seizure, and I learned that that child has since died. There's a lot surrounding that little vial of CBDs, because if it works for Ben, it could work for other children.
Hi!
Hey, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
For Nate Morris, his growing season has been a whirlwind of emotions.
My major hurdle right now is the drug.
That I could definitely help with.
What do you mean they took everything?
After having his garden cut down,
It's just gone. Just gone.
I need to produce medicine right now. I'm on a mission.
Let's do it.
Nate turned to an old friend and icon
Arguably, I just committed a felony.
to help relieve a child's pain.
So tell me, how's it working?
He's been seizure-free for about 10 days, except for 2 very mild seizures.
Wow,
It's been amazing.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's great news.
It's incredible. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. You can't argue with results, and the bottom line is CBDs are working for Ben.
Yeah, you want to pull my hair? You can pull my hair.
When I hear that, I just want to help as many kids as I can. Can I give you a hug?
After that aired, I was bombarded with requests for CBD. The awful truth is that supplies of CBD are very low, and most people who need it can't find it yet. I started a Facebook group called the Cannabidiol Patient Network, so that people asking for CBD could post a request in a forum where growers could read it and reach out to them. The group has been an enormous success and already has thousands of members. In addition to patients from all over the world, we have many of the leading growers, chemists, doctors, processors, and researchers. By sharing discoveries, experiences, and plant genetics, we're working to greatly improve the quality of the research into this medicine. I want to now show you a few videos that some heroes of mine have made.
The video is hard to watch. 6-year-old Jaden in an epileptic seizure.
When you hold your son and he's screaming like that, what is that like?
I would say there's nothing you can do to make him feel better.
But there is something. Jason David administers an unorthodox drug for his son's catastrophic epilepsy called Dravet Syndrome, a disease that can be fatal for children.
45 minutes later, I give him medical marijuana.
Calmed him down.
Yeah.
Stop the seizure.
Stop the seizure. He's in pain and suffering and crying. You have to do whatever it takes to save their life.
Pharmaceutical drugs have failed the Modesto, California family.
Refinamine, Topamax, Clobazam. He couldn't chew, he couldn't walk, couldn't take a bath. Open?
After a year of taking a liquid form of medical marijuana made mostly of cannabidiol that doesn't get you high,
I love you.
Yeah, Jaden!
he's playing, running, and climbing. Jaden is eating solid food. From 22 pills a day to treat his epilepsy, he's down to a pill and a half. 44 ambulance trips before starting on legal medical marijuana. It's now 0.
Medical marijuana, sometimes they call it miracle marijuana.
Jaden is not the only one. There are no solid national statistics of how many children are using medical marijuana, but in the states where it's legal, from Oregon to Colorado, states report dozens of registered users under the age of 18, some as young as 2. And this is your vault?
This is our vault.
A vault full of various types of medicinal marijuana. At Harborside Health Center in Oakland, technicians sort, analyze, and distill the plant. It's science here, and they believe it will help children with severe autism, epilepsy, ADHD, and cancer.
We have seen more than one child like Jaden who came to us with very, very serious, severe, life-threatening illnesses who, as soon as they started using cannabis medicine, saw a dramatic turnaround.
The medical community says without better research, which requires federal support, most doctors oppose medical marijuana for children.
All medications may have side effects, may have long-term consequences, and unfortunately with cannabinoids we know very little about that. The parent is really flying by the seat of his or her pants in doing this.
You are the world to me.
Call him crazy, call him unethical. This father has heard it all, except for one phrase.
All I want is my son to say, "I love you, Dad."
I love you. If you say I love you,
that's all I want to hear. I mean, I'm really close.
Close to finally reaching his son. Young Law, CNN, Modesto, California.
With Today Tonight.
Thanks, Rod, as we continue with Queensland's Today Tonight. And we start tonight with the man supplying high-grade marijuana to children. He's been arrested, his crops seized and destroyed over and over again. But he keeps defying the law because he believes in what he's doing and he has the backing of parents across the country. Damien Hansen explains.
She had one that took her life, and it was the most catastrophic seizure I've ever seen.
Okay.
These people suffer and die.
You wake up 5 to 10 times a day, she's having seizures that render her unconscious.
Sheree O'Connell's daughter Tara has Dravet Syndrome.
Come on guys, let's go inside.
A severe type of epilepsy that affects 1 in 20,000 people. Conventional medicine has let Tara down, but Sheree thinks this man can help.
I had more than one crop last year. I got more than one this year.
I'm Ganjaman. I'm the healer, Rasta. Cha, Viva Nimbus.
From the outside, Tony Bauer's minibus could be mistaken for one driven by the thousands of backpackers who make the pilgrimage to the northern New South Wales town of Nimbin to buy drugs. But what's inside reveals a modern-day medicine man, a dealer with a difference.
I never stopped doing what I've done. You know, when the police took me plants, that did not stop me.
Tony produces his medical cannabis tincture for hundreds of patients, including children, like 7-year-old Tara O'Connell.
People need to realise we don't go into this lightly. You know, it's been a big decision, and we understand people are going to probably say, you're crazy.
Tara's condition is being treated with conventional medicine. Her mother says it's keeping her alive, but it's also slowly killing her. So Tara's parents are taking a drastic step.
We've decided to try Tara on medicinal cannabis.
Today it arrives by mail.
Nothing's worked, so now we're going outside of mainstream, but for Tara's life and quality of life, we're willing to give anything a go. Put it in your mouth then.
It's the moment Tara has her first hit of cannabis.
Good girl.
I'm not going to sit around and listen to some idiot government person tell me what my kid cannot have or can have.
Tony runs Mulloway's Medical Cannabis, the first medical cannabis company established and registered in Australia for the purpose of research, development and production of cannabinoid medicines.
The drug companies would jump on it if they, could get hold of it.
During the extraction process, he removes 95% of the main psychoactive component of the cannabis plant, which is called THC. So you don't get a high from it, but its users say it offers relief from pain and discomfort.
If there is something out there that is going to help control the seizures or help with less side effects, we want to know about it.
Even if natural means an illegal drug?
Well, yeah.
Deborah Camacho's daughter Bella also has Dravet Syndrome.
No parent wants to put their child on drugs. It's a horrifying thought when you have a baby and you've got to give them very strong drugs, but it's a life or death situation that we're facing with our kids.
Bella's seizures are confronting.
Her nose bleeding.
Nose is bleeding. Very difficult. But yeah, get through it.
So, Tony, this is your surgery?
Yeah, this is where people come to see me, and You know, got a lot of people here and used to use the bus, but there was just so many people now.
For Tony to continue to administer to his many, many patients, he must tread a very fine legal line. He needs this. It's a tincture that's not illegal, but what it's made from certainly is. And for Tony to make this, he has to grow cannabis sativa, which puts him directly in the sights of police.
Whatever they're spending their money and harassing me, they're not out harassing these sick people. That's the thing.
Tony is currently facing 3 offences under the Drug Misuse and Trafficking Act. Charges he is fighting on the basis he has approval from the Therapeutic Goods Administration to grow his cannabis.
If they keep seizing your crops, what will that mean for your patients?
They can't. Right, simple as. They can't.
Currently, we can't use cannabis medicinally in Australia, full stop. Not in any state or territory.
President of the Australian Drug Reform Association, Dr. Alex Wodak, believes we need to join the list of nations that have legalised the use of medical cannabis.
There are about a dozen countries around the world, including Israel, Canada, the Netherlands, 18 states of the United States of America, covering about 40% of their population, many other countries, and the number is growing every year.
For parents of children with Dravet Syndrome, finding an alternative treatment to the cocktail of hard drugs is a never-ending search.
Personally, if it was made available for me, I would definitely try it for my boy. You'd rather do that than put all these drugs into them and know the side effects that it can do. It can cause toxic poisoning to your body.
12-year-old Adam Burley finds respite from his seizures underwater. Adam is fed through a tube because he refuses to eat, just one of the side effects of his medication. Roseanne, too, is open to the idea of treating her child with cannabis, but like all children with Dravet, time is running out.
People need to know that epilepsy does kill.
For Mick and Kelly Clohessy, time with their 11-year-old daughter Molly ran out all too soon.
The government's not going to step in, no. They're not going to say, oh, you pull out, Tony, and we'll take care of these people for you. No, they were taking care of them beforehand. They weren't doing a real good job.
In the eyes of the law, Tony is a criminal. But in the hearts of parents with sick children, he's a crusader.
It may not work, but it might, and it might be all we need.
I can't not help these people.
So is he helping? Well, it's been almost 2 months since Tara started on Tony's medical cannabis. Her mum, Cherie, joins us now. Cherie, how's Tara doing?
Tara's doing really well. She hasn't had a seizure since the 8th of February, so we're over a month seizure-free now. She's gone from seizures every single day to not even an absent seizure.
So what was it like when you started seeing results?
When we realised was so quick, it was unbelievable. Probably within a day, her seizures had reduced by half, and it took about 10 days before we were totally seizure-free.
Well, marijuana is illegal. How anxious were you and your family about trying and using a marijuana-based product?
We were quite anxious, but on the same token, we were desperate. The alternatives were all invasive, so to us, this was the least invasive thing to try. It was, although difficult to source, it was available, and it wasn't going to mean we had to mortgage the house to do it.
So what's your understanding of the legalities of doing this?
From what I've been told, the finished product that we receive is totally legal. It's been tested by police and has no illegal substance in it. But the problem is that the growing of the product in the first place is illegal. So the person we receive it from takes a risk every time he creates Tara's drug.
So, Cherie, what's it like as her mum now? Have you got your little girl back?
I don't think I've got her back. I think this is the first time we've ever seen her. We've finally met the real Tara. Tara's been having seizures since she was 6 weeks old. We've never known anything else.
Cherie, we'll have to leave it there. Of course, we wish you and Tara all the best. We note too that a New South Wales Parliamentary Committee is currently holding an inquiry into the use of cannabis for medical purposes.
I'm Dr. Alan Shackelford. What you will see in this brief presentation is remarkable. It's unlike anything that I, in my 30 years of medical practice, have experienced, and it's based on medical marijuana. You may have preconceived notions about what that means, but please watch the next few minutes with an open mind. I think you'll be astonished at what you learn.
So Charlotte has Dravet Syndrome. It's a severe pediatric epilepsy. The seizures when they start with Dravet are status. They don't stop on their own, so they're 20 minutes or 30 minutes or longer. I think her first one was about a half hour. Every seizure after that for 2.5 years was a status seizure, and some were 4 hours long, 2 hours long, and you know, at that point she's intubated in the ER, in the pediatric ICU, and medicine doesn't stop them. So that's we went through that for about 2.5 years. We got diagnosed at 2.5 years old. A few times her heart has stopped during these using these drugs, and I've done CPR on her, and a couple of those times, you know, I just sort of let go of the fact that just to keep trying with her, and I said my goodbyes to her, and as I'm doing CPR on her or in the hospital, kind of prepared myself for the worst. And she's still here, but she's been through a lot to get to this point. The doctor, you know, she heard her history of seizures at that time and said, we have to pull this, her last med that she was on. Her exact words, we have reached the end of the line with medical options for Charlotte. And I don't know what to tell you, there's really nothing else we can do. And that's when we met the Stanleys, and that's when we got started on the CBD. After 6 months of, I really didn't think she would survive the seizures, 300 seizures a week, roughly, of, you know, grand mal tonic-clonic seizures a week. Just to put in light what 300 a week is, it's about 4 an hour. It's one seizure every 15 minutes. So, you know, sometimes it was every 5 minutes. It just never stopped. And so to see her seizure-free for 7 days. She went 7 days instantly. And we've been on it 9 months, and from that 300 seizures a week, she now has 0 to 1 tonic-clonic a week. And so it's greater than 99% seizure reduction. And it's amazing. It's just absolutely amazing. To think that she wasn't going to survive, and look at her now, she has a life. During that time, she lost the ability to walk, talk, eat, and really just, you know, participate in life at all. She couldn't do anything. She just sort of lied in my arms, catatonic. And I thought that was it. There just wasn't a life for a person. But here we are.
Ballerina.
I was looking around for, you know, whatever I could find at any dispensary. I met the Stanleys, and they started growing a strain with the highest CBD we've found in the world. And they named it after Charlotte. For our success, they named it Charlotte's Web, and that's what we've been using since, for the last 8 months.
This particular plant has 0.5% THC and 17% CBD, or cannabidiol, the non-psychoactive ingredient. This plant is so important. The CBD is literally stopping the progression of epilepsy. This plant right here is called Charlotte's Web, after our favorite little precious Dravet Syndrome patient named Charlotte. And this is the reason we've spent 2 years developing this plant, and the world doesn't know about this yet. We are able to treat Charlotte through doctor-approved channels with no psychoactive effect for Charlotte or any of the patients that are able to take this CBD plant. That's why we call this the future of medical marijuana.
I know that seems silly, but
a lot of people think when we tell them what we're giving our daughter, their first reaction is, well, is she getting high? And no, that's not part of it at all. That's a common misconception.
There's no psychoactive side effect. It's non-psychotropic. So, but the CBD does seem to have other side effects that have been amazing, actually.
Behaviorally, it's helped her. It's helped her appetite, and I can't think of any possible negative side effect that it has had. She's just experienced a better quality of life all the way around because of it.
That's right.
Woohoo! Yeah!
to be able to control seizures the way that this evidently is able to do in a condition which results in absolute uncontrolled seizure activity is unprecedented.
Because of this medicine and these high CBD plants, we have our daughter back. We have a life back. She has her life back.
Good job.
Zakai has a rare catastrophic epilepsy diagnosis called Dravet Syndrome. What that entails is lots of seizures every single day, delayed development, autistic tendencies, that sort of thing. In the end, we had tried every medication that's indicated, 17 treatments in all, plus the ketogenic diet, which is a special diet for epilepsy. So we'd really tried everything that we could. Really none of them helped, or they would make his seizures worse. And then the side effects from the medications, of course, are ridiculous. I pulled out some scrapbooks so you could see what Zakai looked on steroids. He doubled his weight. He was having, the EEG showed, EEG is just an electrical scan of the brain waves, and it shows the seizure activity, and he was having 200 clinical seizures an hour. And so there are, 8 people in his room watching him seize over and over. We were there about a week. They just confirmed the diagnosis and said there was nothing else they could do. And we were there to get the confirmation of what we were really dealing with, but to get help, for them to help us. And, they said you've really tried everything in their bag of tricks that they had. Really, not to be melodramatic, but you're in really the fight for your child's life. We finally made the decision, yes, we need to do this. We need to go ahead and get his red card and start this whole process. We were at the end of, our pharmaceutical rope, so to speak. And just the safety profile was just unheard of. I mean, I knew that I wasn't going to kill him, giving him too much, which I couldn't say for any other medication that we've tried.
A very common and obvious question is, how do you administer cannabis to somebody like Zakai, who's 9 years old? The first thing that pops into a person's mind is, what do? You pop a joint in their mouth like the other end? Absolutely not. It's either administered by capsules, which they swallow, or oil syringes.
Also I think people need to understand that everything is tested. And so we know exactly the milligram dosage of CBD that we're giving, Cannabidiol.
So people think that we're stopping these seizures by maybe getting the kid high, which isn't the case. It's actually quite a conundrum, because what's happening is virtually all of the anti-epileptic drugs on the market are psychoactive. This cannabidiol extract is non-psychoactive. So we're replacing psychoactive medications with a non-psychoactive medication, which happens to come from cannabis. So that's kind of hard for people to accept at first.
We may stop to dream, believe in things we've never seen, scattering dreams, spinning in circles.
And it's brilliant because we've been able to come off his psychoactive drug completely. At Zakai's worst, he had 200 seizures an hour, and it has been 106 days now since his last seizure. I get to say, after almost a decade, I get to meet him for the first time without all this seizure activity and drugs. If you can imagine waiting 10 years to meet your kid. It's surreal. It's absolutely unreal. I don't even have words. I don't have words to describe it. I don't know how you think someone who has, literally saved your son's life. I don't know how you think someone. Really, after the euphoria wears off, that we found ourselves in such good fortune, that we found, the Stanleys, that we found people who care and who grow this plant. You get angry that we couldn't have tried this 500,000 seizures ago, that no one even mentioned it as an option. We love our doctor. I love him. I feel like he's in the fight with us. He signed for us. Most doctors won't. But he's never, even in all of these years, shown us the compassion that the role of caring has. Thank God we live in Colorado, but if we didn't, I would do whatever I needed to do to be able to provide this for my child.
And we may stop to dream, believe in things we've never seen, scattering dreams, spinning in circles that never stop, never end. It just roll along in a stream of consciousness.
What we're doing, and I think it's the most important thing that I can be doing right now. There are so many people who are sick, and if this can help them, people have to know about this. It's fantastic that I get to share this with my family, that we're doing this together, and that we both feel so passionately about it.
She was on over 40 different medicines. She had been on methotrexate and Plaquenil, one of those which nearly destroyed her vision. All the potent anti-inflammatories, the Vioxx and the Celebrex, and was on all sorts of painkillers and all sorts of antibiotics. She had classic steroid toxicity. Her face was the shape of a moon because there's a lot of swelling that occurs in the face. At the age of 16 was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and that evolved into a lupus condition, a diagnosis of interstitial cystitis, an autoimmune disorder. Bedridden 4 years. Her mother thought she would never survive.
I went to talk to William as a friend and as a doctor about his experience with patients and how they used cannabis. Seeing what the juicing did for me, using it in this form, was so significant. It changed my life. About 4 to 6 weeks after I started on juicing every day, I had no more back pain. I didn't need pain pills. I felt the best I ever had.
A lot of people think cannabis and pot are not medicine. I had stumbled on an article in Scientific American, December 2004. They had an article on marijuana as the brain's own marijuana, and they introduced the idea that the body produces compounds that are very similar to those found in marijuana or cannabis. Cannabis actually goes upstream. It provides feedback from the postsynaptic nerve to the presynaptic nerve, which was unheard of in neurochemistry. I mean, all neurotransmissions were unidirectional, and all of a sudden, swinging against the force of that are these little cannabinoid molecules that tie the whole system together. The phytocannabinoids from this plant augment the body's attempt to restore and increase function to a normal level. So it mimics the regulatory system of cellular physiology. And recently the Food and Drug Administration has approved of CBD, which is a cannabinoid like THC, one of 80 cannabinoids. The federal patent compares vitamin C, vitamin E, and CBD, or cannabidiol. CBD turns out to be more potent than either of those two.
The thing that I warn my patients of is, if you're going to be juicing this flower and this leaf, and you're going to be doing this high-dose, non-psychoactive cannabinoid dietary approach, please do not heat it.
When you heat cannabis, you make it psychoactive, which for a large part of the community, the psychoactivity of a plant is a measure of its medical quality. But it's really quite the inverse.
If you heat or age cannabis in any way, you're destroying some of the medicinal properties of it.
To use the plant effectively, we have to use it the way it evolved over 34 million years, which is raw. Because when it's raw, the THC is bound up as THC acid. It requires aging, drying, so as a hunter-gatherer, we gather this plant, we notice, wow, as this plant ages, it changes character. It suddenly has a psychoactive effect.
I think that's the most exciting area of cannabis research, is looking at non-psychoactive cannabinoids.
Because if you do heat it, you'll decarboxylate the THC acid, and you're going to have 600 milligrams of THC acid with the CBD acid. You would be unconscious probably for the better part of the week.
Between heating the plant, whether that's in a sucker, a cookie, a baked good, a butter, vaporized, smoked, all of those techniques convert THC acid, which is non-psychoactive, into THC and provide you with that 10 milligram dose. But if you eat the plant raw, then THC acid is the way it's found in the plant. It's not psychoactive. The juicing allows you to get up to the 500 to 600 milligrams, which is 60 times more than you could tolerate if it was heated.
This treatment is not psychoactive. People don't have to be stoned when they take it. They can take it and go to work. They can take it and play with their kids. It's hard for me to understand laws against something like green leaf therapy and to think that prednisone is legal.
We're still fighting the stigma of marijuana back from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s.
I was a prosecutor for 8 years in Mendocino County, so I know it from both as a defense attorney and as a prosecutor. The 1972 Controlled Substances Act said that marijuana has no medical value whatsoever.
The federal government has a patent on its medical properties. The Food and Drug Administration has approved it as investigative new drug.
I have not found the United States to be very open about cannabis research. In order to print an article in a peer-reviewed journal, you have to use cannabis that they have certified for your study. And there are physicians who have waited 3, 4, 5, 6 years, some even longer than that, to just get a sample.
The federal government's been kind of schizophrenic in the way it looks at marijuana. It says it has no medical value under that act, but at the same time, the federal government has been funding research in marijuana for years, for decades. And they've even patented certain strains of marijuana because they recognize it has that medical value. The California Narcotic Officers Association does not believe in medical marijuana. They believe it's all a big scam, and that's how they train law enforcement officers. Law enforcement is allowed to take a percentage of all assets that are forfeited and seized under the state and federal asset forfeiture law. So it takes the really enlightened and compassionate law enforcement officer to recognize that these medical marijuana laws are designed to protect patients.
I was trained when someone had marijuana, you took them to jail. There wasn't a medicine use for marijuana. It's an illegal substance, and people went to jail for it. In 1996, California took a huge leap. I didn't support Proposition 215 because of the education I had, the experience I had, and what I had seen through the illegal marijuana gardens that I had seen throughout my career. Since 1996, I have changed my opinion somewhat. I believe there is a very clear medicinal use for marijuana. That being said, I believe that there are a large percentage of people who use marijuana as an excuse to either make profits or for recreational. The people who use marijuana for the true intended use that the voters passed, medicinal, I'll do everything I can to support their rights. There's many more things that law enforcement can be focused on than medicinal marijuana. And I don't want to give the impression at all that I support people who are growing marijuana for medical purposes 364 days of the year, and then one day a year they make a big sale for a couple $100,000, and they're a commercial seller that one day of the year. They're the people who are causing problems for the people who really and truly need and can use medical marijuana.
Terrifying, to be told as a parent that your child does have a tumor in her brain. It took 24 hours in the operating room. They gave us a 10% chance of survival with treatment.
The Oakland Children's Hospital, where they called me and they said they had a baby who they were discharging home. This baby had completed all treatment that would be useful for it, had a brain tumor, had surgery, had radiation and chemo, and the tumors were still growing and still multiplying. And therefore they said to the parents, just take this baby home and make it comfortable. because there's nothing more that we know that will help its condition.
Started to accept to the point where the illness had taken her and us, and try and find some acceptance.
A month went by and I got in contact with the family, and they said, well, we just came back from Children's Hospital. They did a CAT scan. The tumors have shrunk and there are fewer of them. And they said, I'll tell you what we've been doing. We've been juicing the fan leaves of the marijuana plant and giving our baby a shot glass of this juice every day. This is like this wonderful hospice story. She is no longer on hospice. I brought the oxygen concentrator back. It's just one of those wonderful success stories. This, the plant is a pretty amazing plant because it appears that the juice of this plant is saving this baby's life.
Here we have something that can really change people's lives. I mean, I was laying in bed, catheterized, thinking that physicians were just trying to make me comfortable. They really didn't think that there was anything more that they could do, and that I may not live to be 30, which I am now. That was the best I could hope for. The best I could hope for was taking enough methadone and Percocet every day that I just didn't feel anything at all.
I had gotten in touch with Dr. Courtney because we had received a doctor's recommendation from one of his patients, and in it asked that they start juicing the leaves and having capsules and a few other items which I didn't know anything about. So after I contacted him, I was really excited to hear that there might be some other alternatives to the smoking of the cannabis.
These are friends we've had in the past year. They said, your father's not the same as he was when we first met him, and he seems to be much more alive and much, doing a lot more and more active. And I had informed them that it was because of the juice that he had been taking. Right after we started juicing, that he seemed to be more active. We would do things out in the garage more, and he wouldn't spend so much time in his chair. We have ran out periodically in the last year and a half, and that's what made me convinced that he needed it, because when he would run out, he would have trouble getting out of the car.
I had 4 doctors tell me that I should have a hysterectomy.
You either have no ovaries, or at the very least you're sterile.
That my endometriosis was so bad I would never be able to have a child.
Despite very potent birth control, despite being sterile, Zahaya decided she was going to come join the party.
Ourselves by being extremely scientific, and people know that if they're going to come to us, they're going to have to go through a lot of hoops, but they're also going to get the most up-to-date scientific knowledge on this subject, and they're going to see a physician who's an expert in the field of non-psychoactive cannabinoids, and there are plenty of people that want that and are looking for that. We opened our 5th office in Luxembourg. Their government is really sympathetic and open.
There's an international group studying autism and CBD in Luxembourg.
There's a physician there who's writing cannabis scripts who's also a senator, and we've been working with him, Senator Columbera. The government may be actually funding experiments in a research center using cannabis, in large part because of Dr. Courtney's work with non-psychoactive cannabinoids and Senator Columbera's work with cancer patients.
There are now facilities for testing plants, and there's been more progress made in the last 5 to 6 months. A new strain in from Spain called Cannabidiol, 6.9% CBD. That's a 700% increase over Northern Lights, which is our previous high producer. I would like to find strains that have all of the cannabinoids present in an amount that's useful. I'd like to produce strains that are adapted to environment. In Luxembourg, we're producing thousands and thousands of pounds of seed, to raise the money to give away, a half a pound of seed, because if that person grows an acre of cannabis and feeds their family the proteins and the fatty acids, incredible food source, an incredible preventative medicine source, and an incredible therapeutic source, and at the same time, they're sucking 5 times as much CO2 out of the environment as an acre of trees. First, we have to change convention treaty number 1, which was the convention that the UN put out in 1961 that says cannabis as a crime should be, if you have it, if you grow it, if it's in your possession, you should be in prison. That dogma has dominated the world right now. They're asking for input from the World Health Organization. I'm in the process of writing a letter stating that this is a dietary essential. It's not a criminal thing, because we have to change that treaty before we can go into Central South America and say, you grow yourself an acre of this plant, feed your family, prevent illnesses. So Cannabis International kind of legalizing the plant globally, giving it back to people as a food source, prevent illness is so much better than waiting until you have diseases.
With my own experience and all the patients that I've spoken to, I believe that it's not an isolated incident, that this is the best medication.
Please join us. We need all the help we can get.